Hello, boys and girls, moms and dads, grandmas, grandpas, cats and dogs, and peanut butter sandwiches out there. It's Teacher Paul here. And today I have for you the next video in our series on FreeCodeCamp. Now, in the last video, we made ourselves a registration form. The registration form was project number 4. You can see it here. It used HTML and CSS to create this beautiful registration form here with a nice background color, lots of text fields, radio buttons, checkboxes, and drop downs, everything we need to make a form. Today, we are going to be doing something a little bit different. Today, we are going to be doing our first ever certification project. Certification projects are an integral part of the FreeCodeCamp program because they are where you will code on your own. So taking everything you've learned so far and making something on your own. In the projects, you're not going to be told, do this, do that, do this, do that. Instead, you're just going to be given a list of requirements. It's almost like a practical test. Our first certification project is to build a survey form. For this project, you're going to build a survey form to collect data from your users. When I click into it, you can see the screen looks a little bit different. I have empty HTML document. I have the preview of my website over here. But on the left, I no longer have short steps. Instead, I have this huge, long list of tests and requirements. All in all, we need to satisfy 16 user stories. Objective: build an app functionally similar to this. So when I click on that, this is what we get. Now, they say functionally similar. So we just need to meet the functional requirements for this test. Actually, in this test, there is no CSS whatsoever. In this video, I'm just going to make the project using pure HTML. So it is going to be ugly. But in a follow-up video I'll record later, I'm going to use CSS to style the form to make it look more pretty. It's not required, but I think it's going to be great practice for us. First of all, though, let's go through and get started on the HTML. I have my W3 Schools open. In case I get stuck on anything, I can go and do some research there. Right. Because we're doing HTML, I'm going to first of all start by setting up the basic structure of my page. This should be second nature to all of you by now. So it's always the same. Doc type HTML, then a HTML tag, then a head tag. After the head tag, we have a body tag. And then we close our body here. Inside the head, I'm going to put a title. I'm going to say survey, doesn't need to be all caps, survey form. Then I'm going to close my title as well. And there we go. That is our basic structure for the HTML file. I'm not linking any CSS because in this video, we're just going to do the HTML. Now for our body, it's time to start filling user stories. Look over here, we can see user story number 1. You should have a page title in a H1 element with an ID of title. Okay, H1 element, ID equals title. I'm going to say Steam Squad Survey. You can use any title, any text you want for this code, but for me, I'm just going to pretend that I'm checking what you guys think of our FreeCodeCamp videos. Then, number 2, you should have a short explanation in a P element with an ID of description. P ID equals description. Close that. What do you think of our free code camp videos so far? And then we will close, question mark, and close our P tag there. Now, because I want to make sure the structure of my HTML is tidy, I'm going to take this H1 and P and I'm going to put them inside a header element. So take 2 lines here, tag them over, and close my header as well here. And that's going to keep it more organized. So in the video where I do the CSS, it will be easier to target specific things. Now, it's worth noting that down here, you can run your tests to see how far you are progressing. Right now, I'm completing 4 tests. I've got the H1 element and I've got the P element, and I have the title ID and the description ID. But by the end of this video, I'm going to complete all of these different tests. Okay, so now that we've done our header, we've satisfied story number 1 and 2 of 16. Next, we move on to story number 3. You should have a form element with an ID of survey form. So I'm going to go and I'm going to actually open a main tag, main, and close that tag here and make some space. Inside my main, I'm going to have a form element. The form needs to have an ID equals survey form. And then close my tag here, form. Right. So that is user story number 3. Number 4, inside the form element, you need to enter your name in an input field that has the ID of name and a type of text. Okay. So whenever we're putting an input field, I'm going to give it a label just because that's going to be something to make it easier to read. So we're going to say label for name. Okay. And we're going to say, please enter your name. Space. And then close my label. Like so. And then we're going to have an input ID equals name. Name and type equals text. Right. So there we go. We can click on the label and it's going to give us the checkbox, the text box there. User story number 5. Inside the form element, you are required to, wait a second, guys. I think that's a little clue there. And we had that for number 4 too. It is required. So for the name here, I'm going to make sure it is a required input. And now we're required to enter your email, and it has the ID of email. Okay, so I'm going to take my first one here, I'm gonna move down and copy it. I'm gonna give this email. And here we're going to say email and give it the ID of email and give it the type of email. Okay. So as you can see, it is super ugly. Everything is appearing in the same line. That's okay for now, guys. I'm not going to be playing with the CSS. Instead, I'm just going to do the basic HTML. And now we should have our email one done. I see a little typo there, so that should be fine. Let's check how many tests we're passing so far. And you can see we've already passed 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 tests. Now, let's go to our next user story. If you enter an email that is not formatted correctly, you will see a HTML5 validation error. Okay, well, I'm not seeing that yet because I don't have a submit button. So we can say input type equals submit. And let's put that inside some inverted commas here. Oh, my typing is terrible today. So if I blah, submit, blah, submit. Yes. Okay, so that is working as well. Make some space before my submit button. Inside the form, you can enter a number in an input field that has an ID of number. Okay. So input ID equals, wait. Let's copy again our label and our input here and separate them to make it easier for you guys to see what I'm doing and where I am. We're working on this one right now. So we're going to say label for number because the ID is going to be number, and we'll say please enter your age. ID is number, type is number. And yes, this is now a numbered checkbox. Cool, enter your age. And if I type hello inside there, submit. Okay, let's test. At blah.com. And if I type text, it says, please enter a number. So if you enter non-numbers in the number input, you'll see a validation error. That is correct. Now we're on to user storing number 9. If you enter numbers outside the range of the number input defined by the min and max attributes, you will see a HTML validation error. So inside our number input, we're going to put min equals, and let's set our minimum to be 5. And then let's say our max equals, and let's set our maximum to be 100. I don't think we have anyone over 100 watching our videos. So if I set 1000, just fill in this stuff as well. Yes, this has to be less than or equal to 100. And if I enter 2, has to be greater than or equal to 5. So we have completed number 9. For name, email, number inputs, you can see labels that describe the purpose. Oh, so my labels, and labels need to have IDs. So name label, email label, and number label. Okay, so label for name, ID equals name dash label. Let's copy that. Bring the space with us as well. Copy, paste, email, and number, paste, number label. So let's just check to make sure we're getting that done. So run the test, come down here. Yes, you should have a label input with name label, so on and so forth. Should not be empty, should be a descendant of survey form. Wow, we are already over halfway there. I mean, it's one of the ugliest things I've ever made in my web development career, but we are making some good progress here. Okay, and let's go up and find where we are now. So we're on to number 11. For name, email, and number input fields, you can see placeholder text that gives a description for each field. So for our inputs, we need to have placeholder. Placeholder equals name. Okay, I'm going to copy my placeholder. I'm going to put this down here into our email space. I'm going to change that to say email. Let's change it to Joe Blogs. Just kind of give people an idea. For email, let's change it to cheese@cheese.com. And for number, we also need a placeholder, do we? Yes, we do. And paste. And the placeholder for this is going to be, let's say 21. 21 forever, right? Or it looks a bit weird having a number there already, so I'm going to change it to be age. Okay. Now, number 12. Inside the form element, you should have a select drop-down element with the ID of drop-down and 2 options to choose from. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go and add a select ID equals drop-down. I'm forgetting my inverted commas all the time today. And let's close my select straight away. LECT. Now inside here we're going to have option, and we're going to say cake, and then close our option, and then another option that says coffee, and close our option again. Okay. So now we have at least 2 options. Right now, I'm just doing the bare minimum to pass all of the tests, guys. In the next video, I'm going to spend a lot more time making it more detailed and looking a little bit better. But for now, we're just going to pass the tests, okay? Now, inside the form element, you can select an option from a group of at least 2 radio buttons that are grouped using the same name attribute. Okay, so let's go down here and we're going to have a radio button now. So radio button is input type equals radio, type equals radio, name equals, and we can give them any name. So we're going to call them radio group. Okay, keep it simple. Okay, radio group. And let's give it an ID equals eggs. Okay, and here after that, we're going to say label for equals eggs. And inside the label, we're going to say eggs and close our label like that. Now, when I click eggs, it clicks that radio button. Great. 2 radio buttons, which are grouped using a name attribute. Okay, so another radio button there, and we're going to give this one the ID of eggs, and here we'll have milk, and we'll say, oh, no capital letter in your ID, guys, always lowercase. Milk, that makes it easier, and here we'll have milk. So now I can select milk or I can select eggs, but I cannot have both. Okay, let's run our tests again and see how we're doing. Okay, seems like all of them are passed. Oh, wait a second. All of your radio buttons should have a value attribute and value. Okay, so we're missing one in the middle, which means I don't want to have that kind of situation. So we're going to go in here. We're going to type value equals, and for this one, I'm going to say 0. And the next one, I'm going to say 1. Value equals 1. Okay, so now let's run those tests again and see if we've satisfied that test. Yes, we have. Okay, wonderful. So we have our drop down, we have our radio buttons. We're on to number 14 now. Inside the form element, you can select several fields from a series of checkboxes, each of which must have a value attribute. So we're going to be doing checkboxes now. I'm keeping everything separated here just for you guys. Usually you would not put this empty space between, but I think it's easy for you to see. Like we have our name, our email, our number, drop down, radio. And now we're going to go on, we're going to have some check boxes. So I'm going to give myself some space here. Okay. You know what? Just to make it a bit easier as well, I'm going to use a BR between every section. Hey, BR or maybe HR. Let's see if HR is working. There's a horizontal line in CSS, in HTML. Horizontal line element. Yes, it should be HR, used to separate content. So why is my HR not working here? There we go. So I'm going to put a horizontal line between everything, and then it's a little bit easier again to see. And that separates things onto different lines. There we go. Yeah, it's not probably going to make my final design, but I think that just makes it easier for you to see what we're doing. So we have name, email, age, a drop down, eggs and milk. And let's give our drop down a label as well. Label for equals drop down. And we'll say cake or coffee. This is a very weird form, and close our label then again. Okay, and I spelled coffee completely wrong. There we go. Label for cake or coffee, and let's add a label to our radio. Here. Label, and we'll say this is, we don't need any for, but we're going to say here eggs or milk. Eggs or milk. Okay, and let's give them all colon and a space, colon and a space. There we go. So that's starting to look a little easier for you guys to see. So now, I've delayed it long enough. It's time for our checkboxes. I'm going to copy my label here. And we're going to go and add another label. And this one, we're going to say bread, pancake, pancake or sandwich. Okay, pancake or a sandwich. And then we are going to have some checkbox inputs. So first of all, I'm going to add a input, which is input type equals checkbox. Let's see that. Yes, that has appeared there. So let's read it again. Inside form element, you have an option, choose from, it's 2 radio buttons. No. Inside, you select various fields from series checkboxes, each of which must have a value. Okay, so let's give it, so type equals checkbox, value equals, and we'll say 0 again. Okay. And let's give it an ID equals pancake. Okay. And then we'll have a label for pancake. Copy, label for pancake, and we'll say pancake. Okay, so now I can select my pancake. Value, okay, value ID equals pancake. Copy, and then paste to add another one. And we're going to say sandwich. I labeled for sandwich. ID is equal to sandwich. Value equals 1. Okay, so if I click sandwich, if I click pancake, if I click both. Okay, cool. Let's just make my label have a capital P. And then let's add another horizontal rule here to show that's the end of that section. Okay. Number 15. Inside form element, you have a text area for additional comments. So text area is text area, right? Like this. And inside here, we'll say, please enter your additional comments here. Okay. All of this should be tabbed in. Okay. That's super ugly. We'll be fixing it in the next video. We don't need to give it an ID or anything. Inside the form element, you're presented with a button with the ID of submit to submit all the inputs. ID equals submit. Type equals submit. Let's add another HR down here. Okay, and now I believe we should be able to pass all of the tests with the world's ugliest survey form. Let's press run all the tests. Da, 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 da. There we go. 100% of our HTML is done for the first certification project. You can see it all here. As I say, this is not a finished website. This survey form is way too ugly. And in the next video, we're going to be playing with CSS to try and make it look a little bit prettier. But hopefully that will help you guys if you're stuck on anything when it comes to the survey form. Anyway, guys, that's it from me to you, to your mom, your dad, grandma, grandpa, cats and dogs, and peanut butter sandwiches. A very big thank you and goodbye.